everyone. So I have another tutorial in mind today. I want to show the wonderful power of sine waves. Last time I showed arrays. Sine waves are pretty neat too. Like, I'm not quite as wild about them as I am about arrays, but sine waves are lovely, and we're going to see how useful they can be for just making nice, easy to program, good looking kind of physics effects in your games. And this tutorial does involve the physics tutorial I showed before. So if you haven't seen that, that's a free tutorial. It's on YouTube. I'll have a link to it in the description. The physics system to do with setting the position of your objects to their physics variables. I'll just give a quick look at that. So they've got variables for the speed and position of the objects, and I use that instead of just integers to govern the positions. But look at the tutorial for that. And this also involves the shooting tutorial I have in my Patreon, so there's that as well. So what I have right now is I've got a ship. It can rotate, it can shoot these things, and then if I can hold down T, it slows down with the time flow variable, and you get this nice slow-mo effect as well. And I think I've got a frames per second counter in the corner there too. So that there's a couple of things in here, but the real basis of this is just the physics tutorial. If you have that, you can add the sine waving effects yourself. So let's make a new comment just to mark out where the sine wave effects are going to be. So firstly, I think I've already done the variable in here. So we have the ship has a variable called sine wave cycle. And this is basically a cycle that's going to go up to 360 and then snap back down to 0. So you've got kind of this rotating number out of 360. So let's say this is not necessary, but I like to have, if it's about the ship, I like to say that this will happen if there's a ship. Basically, if there's more than 0 ships, it will do it, because it just gives you a clue of what's in this line as well. It's just, I find that kind of nice when you know it's not wasting time trying to do stuff. So you want to add to the sine wave cycle, and because I have a time flow, this object has a time flow variable. This is all in the physics tutorial if you haven't done that, so it should be known to you all who've done that. So we add the time flow, but at the same time, actually, I know that times 5 is going to look better as well, so that this will change how quickly the cycle happens. It'll go through 360 bits, except now it'll be like 1/5 of that. It'll go faster through the cycle. Then, just for kind of peace of mind, because I don't like the idea of the number getting bigger and bigger, I like to have it so when the sine wave cycle is greater than 360, then we can subtract from the sine wave cycle, subtract 360. So what we should see is the ship in the debugger. Yes, okay, it is. Yeah, here it is. Here's the debugger. So what you see is the sine wave cycle is going on, and then if I hold down T, is that? Oh, have I forgotten? No, okay, no, it is. It's adding the time flow to the sine wave cycle. Let's see that again. That right? No, maybe it is. Okay, yeah, it is going a lot slower. No, it is. It like I said in the time flow bits of the physics tutorial, it's not always obvious when you're getting it slower, but no, it is I think slowing down in that cycle. And this should be more obvious in a second. So then what you want to do is when you want to add to the y variable in this. So we've got the y value, then we add sin its sine wave cycle. And as a matter of fact, actually let's just start with just the raw number, because I know what the right answer is here. Right, so and there you go, and that's enough really. Like, there you go, the ship is bobbing up and down beautifully, and it just looks a lot nicer, like it's hovering or something. And you can experiment with what the numbers are here. So we could either have a cycle that goes through faster. Let's make it go a bit slower, because I think that looked a bit not very easy. There we go. That's a bit slower. And then we could make it so that the maybe it's less pronounced, so it adds less. Let's kind of do a third-ish of that, 0.3. And then we should have a slower, smaller bobbing up and down. I think that looks more graceful. So you can mess with those proportions and you end up with different cycles, basically. And there you go, and you've got a ship that bobs up and down nicely. I put quite a bit of work into the bobbing up and down of your ship in Super Space Galaxy as well. It's designed to bob up and down all the time to emphasize that it's flying and kind of just make it look a bit more alive. So I did make sure I had just a beautiful looking program there. So it's partly aesthetic, it's just to show things and make things look nice. So the smooth movement looks nice. So I'll also show a nice thing you can do with projectiles that's based on the same thing. So let's say we wanted to have the projectiles have a kind of sine-waving, wavy path. Like that can do all sorts of things, like the legendary Medusa heads in Castlevania or something. So again, I've given them, I'll just show, I've given them already a variable, the sine wave cycle, there it is. And if we have those exist, we add to the sine wave cycle, we'll add the time flow, and let's say 10 or something as well, time flow times 10. Likewise, let's say that if their sine wave cycle is greater than 360, boop, and subtract from the sine wave cycle 360. So now that will go around in a loop as well. But then we want to, the equation's a little bit different for this, which is why I thought it was worth sharing as well. So say when there's some projectiles, what we want to do is add x. So the equation for x here should be sin the angle variable. The angle stuff is set up in my tutorial for shooting, but it's probably possible to figure out decently anyway. Multiplied by sin the sine wave cycle, and let's copy that as well, a bit more convenient to do it that way. And we'll say cos the angle variable, and do that with the y value, so that should have a sine wave, and I think that'll be a okay, yeah. So what we end up with is, yeah, that's a sine wave, all right. It's kind of interesting even. They sine wave back and forth along their path, clearly, which is sort of interesting. I mean, you could even do that if that's what you wanted, right? But I think that's not really what we're after. We want to sine wave perpendicular to the path. So what you do is you go into this thing, it's sinning here, and say plus 90, and the same for the y shuffling. And if I run that, oops, yeah, if I run that, yeah, beautiful. So what we get is a cool sine wavy effect, and look how much more interesting that is. Oh, okay, actually I can already see I've done something wrong there as well. So if I've got it going at normal speed, it's that size, but if I'm holding down T, somehow the sine wave is bigger. So yeah, that's why I have T on the time slowing like that. So let's add in a time flow times, because like I say in the physics tutorial, any time-bound change needs to be multiplied by the time flow variable. Oh, and the same goes for this. I think the ship's, yeah, failing to bob up and down in accordance with the time flow. So there we go. There we go. Okay. So we've got that sine waving, and then it should go in proportion to time flow and still look alright if we've got super slow-mo. And again, you can change this around. You can change the constants here. So we could say that the cycle is moving more slowly. So if I do that, you'll get, I think, a bigger movement. Let's do that again to make it more obvious. Yeah, I think actually we're getting a very slow movement there. Oh yes, and one last cool thing, we could set this up so that when the projectiles are first born, this is where this happens, it's in my shooting tutorial, you can set their sine wave cycle to a random number. So let's say a random number between 0 and 359, because that's kind of the meaningful territory. And what we should see now is instead of all kind of behaving the same, they come out at a random point in their sine wave cycle. Let's make it move a bit faster, I think. So you can just experiment with all the constants of this, basically. Oh yeah, actually, because they come out quickly, so let's make 20. I think that'll look better. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so you can really see them wiggling, but you can also see that they're kind of wiggling not all together, and they're coming out a bit differently. Let's increase the whatever it's called, the size of the waves as well. Let's multiply that by 5 for the wave size stuff. There we go. Okay, so we've got a decent wave there, and you can kind of see now they're coming out a bit crazy, and that could be your attack, that could be some weird enemy attack. And you can just use sine waves for aesthetic purposes as well, just have things bobbing up and down nicely and have them in a cycle like that. And this sine wave movement should work in 2 dimensions like that. It still wriggles. You could have wriggling tadpoles, you could have hovering ships, all sorts of things can come out of just having a sine wave cycle that sets things positions like this. So there you go, that's pretty much it, and you've got this really cool kind of organic looking effect almost. You can probably find uses for this that are not here. Oh, and just so that you can see all the code at once, here's the code for the shooting. I think that's in my shooting tutorial. And then this other bit is the code for the sine waving effects and the physics and stuff. So hopefully you can put that all together just from that. Anyway, I hope you guys find that useful for your games. I will see you next time in another tutorial.